Oh, hello. Give us a second. We're just clawing our way back up out of the donut hole.
Oh, my goodness.
We came back from
exhausted.
a walk. And, like we were saying in previous times, you'd feel better.
I feel better. I think I'm going to tell myself I feel better. I'm exhausted. Dave, I'm not used to being that tired after a walk, but I haven't done much. Since I got sick a couple of weeks ago, I've been really babying myself, and I felt it today. Not as much on the way going as on the way coming back. Oh my goodness, I'm tired.
At what point after that do you start feeling better? We always say that, we don't ever want to go, but we're glad we did, and we feel better when we come back. So
no, I'm glad I did.
Transition for you today?
Well, it isn't magic. I'm happy I went because I think that laying around and sitting around and kind of, like I say, taking it easy, I might have passed the point where that's a bad idea. I might have done that a little bit too long. So I'm glad we went today.
So you've been luxuriating too much? Is that what you're confessing today?
No, I've stayed busy, but I've done quiet things, writing, stuff like that. And I did laundry a few times, which means doing it by hand when you're off grid and hanging it on the line. And I was proud of myself for doing that. We've gone down the mountain to the store a couple of times. I cook 2 meals a day. I do the dishes from those. I only do the dishes once a day, though. I have to save them for after supper. Reason being, the stove is run on one of those gas bottles, the kind that you use for your barbecue grill. And if you hammer that, when that empties, we have to load that into a grocery cart and drag it down the mountain and then drag the full one back up the mountain. And like I said, it's 1.5 miles, and I don't enjoy that process.
Geyser power.
Yeah, geyser power, we do it. And again, I'm always kind of proud of myself after we've done it, but oh man, I dislike that. So I've been making decisions
no pain
in the kitchen.
You know what?
Yeah, that's stupid, the whole thing. We tried to get deliveries here of the gas bottles, but it's the kind of thing where you have to set up a monthly plan and then they deliver, and it's too complicated for people that are only here a few months out of the year. So
no, it's not complicated, just flat out won't do it unless you have at least 1 bottle a month. We're not here all year round, so it doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work. So there we are, dragging it down there in the grocery cart and back up the hill.
I'm see if we can bribe somebody to bring it back up us.
Yeah, we've had offers. Some of the folks downtown that we know a little bit, they've brought it up a couple of times, and I did appreciate that. But I don't want to bang on their door and ask for that. If they see us and offer, then yeah, I'll take them up on it. Sure, I will. But I don't want to put anybody out. We know each other, but not that well, where you can really ask a favor of somebody. So that's an issue. But I'm making decisions about how to use that gas bottle. Now, I'm going to give you for instance, in this, I tell these stories because these are little realities that when you think about going off grid, or even, temporarily for a few months like we do, these are things you have to think about. How are you going to charge up your phone if you get several days of rainy weather? So you're not going to be wanting to watch movies on your phone or anything like that because you don't have a good way of replenishing the battery. I mean, we have those battery packs. That's kind of how we do it, but even those are finite. And they take a long time if the weather's not real sunny to recharge. The gas bottle over there this morning, well, I went to the store, was it yesterday or the day before?
I don't know. It's, they just so sort of blend into each other.
I think it was the day before yesterday.
I think so, yeah.
Anyway, I meant to get baguettes, and I forgot.
What the heck?
Well, you know what it is for me, Dave? My French isn't that great, and they have the baguettes right by the counter, and I'm thinking of things that I need to ask or clarify or something like that, and I'm trying to call up in my head the French words to say that. And so I completely forgot, because usually I get through the order and then I say, and 2 baguettes, I'll do baguette. And so I just completely spaced out and didn't get them. And I was up the mountain. I was back home before I realized that I had forgotten. I was mad.
Oh, I don't know. That's bad.
I know.
It's real bad.
We enjoy sitting out at lunchtime and have a slice of baguette with maybe some cheese or pate or something like that. And it sounds really sophisticated that's what we like to do. And sometimes a little glass of rosé wine with that. Today we had, after our little hike, we had really nice grissini, like breadsticks with rosemary in them, and a spread to put on them, cheese spread that's made with like cream cheese, and it had herbs and garlic in it, and the breadsticks had the rosemary in it, so that was really nice. And that with nice cold water with ginger and lemon in it. So that was a nice treat, very refreshing, and I really needed that because, like I say, I'm very out of practice with our hiking. So I think that's all to the good. So we were talking about our shoes on the hike today because there was some fairly big stones and all that, and some of the paths that we were on, and apparently, I guess just coincidentally, we both have shoes with sort of very pliable soles on them. Yeah. I like these
I wasn't too sure about that, but I'm starting to see that they might be an advantage.
Yours are called barefoot soles.
Are they actually called that?
Oh, I think so. I think so, because I've seen...
Well, you know more about that than I do.
He just bought these shoes, and I saw a pair online that looked like the ones that you have on now. He ordered them himself. I was no part of any of that.
Gee, yeah, I can do it.
I didn't mean it that way.
He ordered them himself.
If it sounded
wasn't that cute?
Well, I'm not going to say anything. Anyway, they're nice-looking shoes. They look really comfortable, and they're broader across the top, across where your toes are. So it makes it look like they'd be super comfortable. But the sole looks extremely flexible, much more than normal. And I was wondering how he was going to like those, because where we walk is very stony. And so I was wondering, did you feel it all?
Yeah, that's what I was worried about. And I thought maybe by now, because we've been here a while, and that's the only shoes I have, which probably isn't wise now. But you can feel the rock, and I'm assuming that it would kind of make a hole in the soles because they are kind of that flexible. But so far, no. They seem really tough. They seem really grippy, and you kind of get a little bit of a foot massage as you walk.
Really?
Yeah, with the sort of the yoga thing. They do the walking yoga, and you're supposed to ground yourself once in a while by walking in bare feet so that you can really concentrate on how it feels and that kind of thing. And you can do that without bare feet this way. And the other thing that I discovered too is that because it's flexible, it does allow your foot to operate like in its more natural state, like you can kind of grip around things a little bit.
Okay.
Like our very, very ancient ancestors. It was very helpful in the trees and stuff, But I don't know. It's kind of winning me over a little bit.
Really?
Yeah.
I think we both need shoes with thicker soles if we're going to do that kind of hiking. I mean, we already know that. Everywhere we go, it's bushwhacking. And I mean, really, I'm not even kidding about that. There's sections of road where they've kind of put down cement, but it's only patches, and the rest of it's very stony. And what I'm thinking, the wise move for us, because we do want to travel light, and we always come back to this same place, and it is possible for us to leave a bag of stuff here. So I'm thinking that we should get a modestly priced, thicker soled shoe of some sort, sneaker even. It doesn't matter as long as the sole is thicker than the ones we both have right now.
Well, the sneakers are flexible too, though. And they're not made like these much better tread on them and all that. So, what about your shoes? Says was similar with flexible soles. What was your experience?
Way too flexible. I like these shoes that I have. They're dark gray, kind of a blackish, like a tweed almost color. I really like them. It goes with my stuff. I try to coordinate most of my travel wardrobe with blacks and whites and then occasional color. But these look okay with a skirt. They're kind of a narrow profile shoe or sneaker, and they're quite comfortable. I enjoy wearing them. But I think that for that kind of hiking that we did today, and we'll do again tomorrow from the plan, I think...
Yeah, that's right. It's Friday.
It's
and
Freaky
we've
Friday.
promised this thing that we're going to do for weeks now, so we're finally going to pay up.
Yeah, unless I'm like floored from all my hiking today. But I think I'll be all right. Now that
You're tough. You're tough.
Yeah, I am tough. But anyway...
Back on the idea of the shoes being sort of like,
it's equipment.
You took the meditation courses and all that. One of the sections was to do grounding walk or barefoot walk, wasn't it?
No, I think it was just walking meditation, but I don't think they encourage people to walk barefoot, but I don't. I'm not in that camp. Mostly because A, the places I go are very stony and uneven. That's a problem for me. Or B, if you walk like that in the city, you don't want to be walking in the grass because everybody and their brother has a dog, and the dog has been in the grass.
Well, I think the point is really, because I had some training with that as a part of it, is that you carefully choose the place that you go ahead and do the barefoot walk. You don't necessarily have to do it in every situation that you might encounter.
Yeah, but how do you do the research? No,
it's not research. It's just an exercise, for you to ground yourself to the earth with your bare feet, that kind of thing. So you find a place that, it seems good for you to do that, and then that's when you do it. The beach, for instance, of course. But most people don't have a beach handy, so some place that's flat and not going to hurt your feet too much, depending on how sensitive your feet are and all that. But you choose where you do it. Obviously, you don't have to do it in wherever you are, any terrain that you're in.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to hang around doing research about where there's good grass to do. The beach is the obvious thing if you're lucky enough to live in a coastal area. But we visit those places, but we don't live there. The city sidewalks are fine, but I wouldn't want to walk barefoot down there either because they get hot.
Yeah, that's right. It'd be too hot, yeah.
We had our daughter's dog. One time I was walking the dog, and the dog was always kind of pulling over to the left. And I like to keep the dog on my right side and, handle the leash in a certain way. But the dog didn't want that. And at first I was a little annoyed because the dog was cutting across me to get over on the left side. So I switched the leash over there to my left hand, and I realized that the dog was walking in the shady spots behind where the cars parked. The cars cast a shadow on that side of the sidewalk. It was sunny on the other side where we were originally walking. And I thought, leave it to an animal to be able to just instinct that, just make those choices. And it hadn't occurred to me. So I was kind of very pleased about that. It reminds you we don't have all the answers. Sometimes you just go with what nature decides.
Considering that you're talking about a jet black dog, so
yes.
I feel that more acutely.
Oh, of course. But she's a great dog, and it's nice to spend time with her. We've dog sat several times, and that's always been good. I enjoyed today's walk because, again, I like looking at the flowers that are out there. Today I got a big bouquet of St. John's wort, and that is...
Yeah, that's not hard to find around here, is it?
No, not terribly. Mm-mm. And that's very good. You can dry out the leaves from that, and I believe the blossoms too, and make a nice tea, an anti-anxiety tea, which is a nice thing to do. And I got some more mustard leaves, and I'm going to make pesto out of that. I have a few other little herbs. I have some clover, and I think I'm going to add just a little tiny, tiny snippets of very young grape leaf before they get kind of stiff. So I think I'm going to add those and make a nice pesto. So that's something I'm going to do. As soon as I came back, I made focaccia. As I said this morning, I had to make decisions because I forgot those baguettes. I needed something for breakfast, and I was going to bake scones. I often bake them, and we like them with butter and jelly. But this morning, because I decided yesterday that I was going to bake focaccia today, I thought, I don't want to bake twice in one day, and I'm not ready to do the focaccia because that requires rising. You have to use yeast with that. It doesn't take long usually if you find a warm spot. Sometimes, again, I don't know if I've said it before, but if you have a car, sometimes you can put a lid on your bowl, your bread bowl, where you're rising the dough, set it in your car, and it rises like crazy fast. So that's kind of a little hack that's, shortens the time from when you put it together to when you can actually bake it.
It's an interesting idea. Why don't you put it under the tire? It'll raise the car up and you can change the oil.
Oh my goodness. No, of course
Depends
not.
on the strength of the yeast, of course.
Just put it in a... So, we've risen it outside. A lot of times that's where it is now. It's out. There's a metal table out there. I set it on because that table gets hot in the sun, and that'll help rise that bread quicker. But you reminded me that it would be better to set it out on the stone fence, but in a bag, a plastic bag. I put it in the bowl. It's not really a bowl I have it in. It's like a paella pan, one of those black speckleware pans. And I have another pan that I use as a lid for that because the black absorbs sunlight and it stays nice and warm. So the first thing I'll do when we're finished visiting is I'll go and check and make sure that it hasn't gotten too hot, that bottom section where it's touching the black pan doesn't get really dried out. But I think it'll be fine because I greased the bowl. So,
well, maybe you'll just cook it.
Yeah, I'd love to be able to do that. Those solar ovens, I'm so interested in that. One day I'd love to rig up something that we could try that in.
Yeah, we played around with that here and there through the years, but haven't really bared down enough to actually get full success with it. But that would be very cool to be able to do that. I don't understand how they can control it, the temperature, because it would either be too low or it'd be way too high or something. So I'll have to learn more about that.
Yeah. I think you have to figure out about how hot does it get inside, and then just do your baking of all kinds of stuff that require that much heat. So if it's like an 80-degree day out and you're going to put that solar oven in a certain place, figure it's going to be 400 or something, and then make that. That's what I think anyway. But it should tell you that when you hang around a place like this, you get creative about stuff to do and you wonder about things like that. And we've only messed around with things pretty much that we've had here, but it's it's a lot of fun to ponder what the possibilities are in a hot place like that. So I like that. Let's see, what else did I get?
We do the shower water that way too, in a black bucket.
Yeah.
And put a plastic bag over it and leave it on the wall. And usually, late afternoon, it's ready.
Yeah. And it's warm enough too. And Dave bought, what is that thing you bought? Is that for campers?
Yeah, actually backpackers, I think, because it's so small. And it charges, it's got battery built in, of course, the pump motor and all that. And it's very compact and charges from USB, which is handy. And I think the difference with this one over other ones that I've tried through the years is it has almost kind of a proper shower head with it. And a lot of those camping ones don't. They have some little tiny thing that's like a 50-cent piece or something. Yeah.
And this one, the one that you got, has a start and stop button on the shower head. And if you've heated water in a bucket like that, and we're talking, 2 or 3 gallon bucket, black, to absorb the heat best. If you've heated your water like that, you don't want to waste any. So if you're soaping up, you turn the shower water off, soap up, and then continue your shower. So you need that on-off button on the shower head mechanism. It came with a thing that like a suction thing that you could stick on the shower wall or somewhere and position the shower head in the holder like a normal shower. But that thing didn't stick very well, did it?
No,
and that's
I
a
thought
nice
I thought it stuck pretty well. It's just that when I did it first in the shower stall, I think it was just because I wasn't completely lined up with the tile. But when I tried it out at the table, I was rocking that big, huge stainless steel table all over the place, just with the suction cup attached to it.
Yeah. So you think it wasn't lined up well? I was disappointed because you showed me when you were when you had it out on the table.
You have to take care when you're actually doing it, because it has a little mechanism to pull the center of the suction cup up when you get it placed properly. And then it's always a good idea to dampen it a little bit inside the cup. So I didn't take enough time with it, I can tell you that much.
Okay. Here I thought it was a faulty thing. I'm glad you admitted it. That's very good. But, so I think when you are off grid, especially if this is not your primary residence and you're just kind of camping or just on a little holiday for yourself, it's important to think ahead of time about equipment you might need to make the experience better for yourself. And having proper shoes, like we've discussed today, also having the ability to take a warm shower. And when we talk about heating the water out on the wall, it's a big, well, not big, it's a low stone wall, rubble. It's been there absolutely forever. And it holds heat like crazy. It's a wonderful place to set those folding chargers, the solar chargers, on that wall because they get really good sun. There's no trees out in the way or anything like that to obscure it. And so you can get a good charge out there. You can get a good heat, for the bucket of water to take your shower. Because if you have to heat it again, you're depleting your gas bottle. And if you enjoy heading down the mountain with a grocery cart full of gas bottle and then back up, well, then go for it. But we try to delay that process as long as we possibly can. And we keep 2 usually, but at this point in time, the second one is in use and the first one is waiting to be taken down. So we have to get busy and do that. So anything we can do to be as gentle as possible on the usage, that's what we do. And it's I think, a wonderful life lesson because you think about everything. You think about water because you got to carry that. We have been lucky. Last year, we discovered that we could get grocery deliveries here. And that's been fantastic because we can get those big bottles of water with the spigots. And that makes a huge difference for us because before we were carting that up the mountain too. And that gets old. That really, for me, I think at our age going forward, those kinds of things and doing those kinds of things are prohibitive, so we have to figure out new ways of doing it, and we also have to be very conservative with our usage of anything like that. And we do get running water here when the vines are up, when they turn on the irrigation system, and the water supply to this cottage that we're at is attached to that system because we are in the middle of a vineyard, literally in the middle of a vineyard, which is nice. But it isn't always turned on from the main junction, which is down the road quite a bit. It isn't always on. It comes on about this time of year. I think we've had water, a week? A little over a week? Running water, that means like for flushing toilets and rinsing your hands. But that water is not potable. So drinking water still has to be imported or processed. And,
Yeah, at some point, get good reverse osmosis setup, and then you could process it safely. Yeah.
Yeah, I really think we need to prioritize that, maybe even this trip. One of the reasons for that is if you buy those big things of water, and it's good to do that, I extol the advantages of it, but one of the disadvantages are those things are big, and we have to bag those up, hike down the mountain, take them to the recycling bins, and get rid of them that way. And the thing with those is they take up a lot of space. They're not heavy, but you'll have, 6 or 8 of those, and they'll take up a whole great big bag that you carry down the mountain, which, again, that's not enjoyable. And 8 of those big jugs with the spigots is the limit that you can get in any single delivery from the big store from the city. So
Yeah, I understand that. They're heavy.
yeah, and plus they take a lot of space, and you can't really set other things on top of them. So I completely understand why they have it that way.
Yeah, exactly. And at 8 pounds per gallon, I shouldn't use the gallon. We're not in gallon territory, are we? Yeah, it's heavy for sure. And then 8 of those, 64 liters in total.
Yeah. We have it. It's set up in what looks like one of those angular dish drainers. So we set the bottle on its side on one of those, and it's raised up above the sink. So you can set a bottle in underneath there, or the tea kettle or something like that, and use it almost like you would use just the regular faucet. The faucet you can use to rinse stuff out. I usually use that water. I heat some of the water from the faucet, the non-potable water. I heat that up, and that's how I do my dishes in the evening, but I rinse them with the pure water. So these are all things you got to think about. And it takes getting used to, and you don't always feel it. And so sometimes I wonder how I would be if I did this like full time. I mean, I miss those long, hot showers. You just do.
So wasteful.
It is wasteful.
Feels good, but wasteful.
Yeah. So, but you get by. You learn how to do it. I'm always proud of us. When we heat the water out in the bucket with the sunlight, and the focaccia bread is out there rising in the sun, and you're really using it. And it feels good. It feels kind of right.
There's something sort of viscerally pleasing about doing a kind of a throwback to earlier times living style and the perspective that comes with that.
Yeah. No, we don't do a lot of burning. We don't do much. There's a pizza oven here, and we have in the past used that, but we don't do it very often because over the years it's gotten, well, as the summer months advance, it just gets too hot here, and you'd be afraid that you'd torch up the whole mountain with a spark that came out of the chimney on that.
That's pretty safe in there. Open fires, no way, but I think that'd be safe enough. In fact, we got to do that. We didn't do it last time.
Well,
so we got to.
What I would want is some kind of a mesh thing that we could put over, like a spark arrestor to put over the top of the chimney. There's a little chimney on that. Plus, I need to open that up sometime early or on a cold day or something like that. Make sure there's not bees in there.
Yeah, of course. The outlet for the smoke, however, is not a direct path, so it's designed properly. So the sparks and stuff wouldn't tend to go up the chimney. They hit kind of the top of the oven first, and then, but yeah, a little screen up there won't hurt.
Yeah, and then it just makes you feel better using it too. I mean, nobody's told us we couldn't. I just haven't. And because there are a lot of dry grasses around. But this is the greenest I've ever seen here at this time of year. Usually it's been kind of drier looking, but boy, is it gorgeous now.
Yeah, it's just not dry at all now.
Emerald green. And that I really love to see because it makes you feel like things are healthier or on the mend. And I do know that France is pretty conscientious about their initiatives to check global warming, regardless of how you feel about it politically. they're doing their best, I think, to make sure that, it's being addressed on some level. And if this is any indication, things are looking pretty good, at least at this point. I know that they do a lot of, what seems like simple things. Bring your own grocery bags to the grocery store. They've limited that. They have the recyclable bags that you can get, but they're not handing out the plastics like they used to. And I think it's a small thing, but it helps. Every little bit helps. And I guess I understand why a lot of people say, oh, these are just natural mechanisms and there's nothing we can do about it. And I think, well, maybe you are right. I can't say one way or the other. But if you're wrong and you do nothing, you really have, kind of screwed yourself up, because you will live to regret that you did nothing. So I think the only really smart move is to assume that what the scientists are saying is correct. What can you and me and all of us do to make it better? And let's do that. And then we won't have any regrets. We'll know we did what we could. And why wouldn't you? Right?
Yeah, that's right. If you have to have a really good excuse, and a lot of people don't.
No, they
It's
absolutely
just sort of,
don't.
I don't believe that or whatever, but you don't lose anything by doing what you can.
I've never heard more airplanes than since we've been doing the podcast here. I don't know whether I've been in just kind of my own little world, but we both have headsets on, and I can hear it very, very well. So, and that one sounds high. That one doesn't sound like one of the little planes. That maybe it does, but I don't know. What do I know?
Very close.
Nothing.
It sounds very close. Yeah.
Yeah, we're on the side of that mountain, kind of overlooking a valley, and down in the valley is all vines, and they like to fly there. The military jets used to fly over there. Remember, they'd come out of nowhere, like everything would be quiet and peaceful, and then all of a sudden you'd hear them streaking across the valley, and that would wake you up if you were taking a nap or reading a book or something. All of a sudden you'd jump because it all happened so quickly. But interesting anyway. Places like this are really conducive to rest and
reflection, creativity, and all that sort of thing.
Yeah. Dave, I was reading something the other day about, they were talking about energy medicine. What is that?
Oh, you know what it is. You took all those courses.
I did, but I'm talking about like now what they're talking about with energy medicine. I mean,
just what they're finding out more and more, that with proper sort of studies and all that there is really something to it. Before a lot of that stuff, people thought, oh yeah, that's just nonsense, or people charlatans or new age or hippies or whatever. But some of the research is just astounding, and I would like to do some more in-depth shows maybe in the future about some of that stuff. But basically, the idea around it is, and like I've said a number of times on the podcast, that everything is energy. Every bit of matter that you see, everything that you're made of, everything in the environment, in your world, the rocks, the trees, everything is basically just pure energy being expressed, sort of precipitated, if you will, into that form. And so therefore, this idea of energy medicine says, well, let's see what we can do to kind of treat the fundamental reality of what everything is, and on an energy level. And well-known practices that are actually employing energy medicine is acupuncture is one of the main ones. Mm-hmm. Even massage therapy, actually, because it has been found that our muscles are actually what they call piezoelectric, which means that when you put pressure on something, it actually generates a little bit of current, electrical current, and therefore, there you go, energy, right? Mm-hmm. And Same way with the acupuncture, the thin needle actually makes a small irritation in there, obviously, as you might think. Doesn't hurt, though, right? You've done that more than I have.
Yeah, lots of times. And no, I mean, I can't say that every needle I've ever had stuck in me didn't hurt, but it was so nothing that for a second you might feel a little pressure more than hurt. And I recommend it absolutely highly to people. I have benefited personally so much from acupuncture. I had some kind of a problem with one of my arms where every now and then it would give me like an electrical shock on my arm. You'd feel just like this sharp, I'll call it a sharp pain, but it wasn't like a pinch or anything. It was more like a zap. And I had acupuncture done, and that not only helped that problem with my arm, I mean, it was gone. I never had that problem again, and it had plagued me for months. I had that, and that same session, I'd been having a lot of migraine headaches. And that same session that fixed my arm also fixed the headaches for the longest while. I'm prone to them. And so over time, you begin to notice that you're having more again. But there for a while, I had none. And I was feeling more energetic and better. My arm wasn't hurting. And, it was just wonderful. And the experience, too. I wanted to fall right asleep. I had to fight going to sleep. That's how peaceful I felt. And the idea with the acupuncture and acupressure is that they want to increase the flow, the life force in your body, the chi, as they call it, CHI. And you can feel it, or at least I think I could. Maybe I have myself just goofed into believing that, but
that still works.
Yeah, it does. I had an acupuncture session just before we came, and I've had issues with the small of my back and long flights. Sometimes, it's painful after a few hours and you can't move and all of that. It's really, really terribly sore. But I had no issues this time, and I credit it to the acupuncture. And there's just so many new things that they're talking about with that. But, I mean, the term energy medicine has been around for a while. It's been, 5 or 6 years since.
Oh, well, actually, it's thousands of years old.
No, but I'm talking about since we took courses.
Yeah.
And now I think that they're including a lot more things that are becoming mainstream. I know that insurance companies now are more willing to pay for people to have the acupuncture or acupressure because there's good results. And people swear by it. And
or is it just that it's a lot less expensive and they don't have to pay such a large bill?
Well, whatever the reason is, they're a lot more likely to do that now than they were even 10 or 15 years ago, because I think the science is starting to catch up with the mainstream consciousness. And I think it's high time too, because
well, part of the reason is because a lot of people are now discovering these alternatives and are going that way, and they're seeing therefore less and less going to the regular doctor. And I think that's also a matter of profit problems.
Yeah.
If you're not seeing as many customers.
Because they're choosing alternative methodologies. Yeah. I mean, if you put the big picture together, you're watching your diet, you're getting reasonable exercise, you're paying attention to your sleep hygiene, you're turning off the devices, you're trying to get 6 to 8 hours a night, and you're creating an environment where you sleep that isn't to be confused with your office or, your dining room or anything else. You're making sure that that's a kind of a sanctuary. All of those things that you're doing add up to a much better potential for keeping yourself healthy and vital so that you can go and do some fun stuff that you enjoy. So, it's worth it. And not only that, but I don't find, for the most part, I don't like carrying the gas bottle down the hill or back up, or the recycling. I don't enjoy that. But at the end of the day, it isn't horrible. It's doable. Maybe not my favorite
anything,
thing.
as long as you take your time, it makes a difference, and definitely.
Yeah.
But anyway, back quickly on the idea of acupuncture. A lot of people they hear these stories and they struggled with some sort of chronic thing, and the regular medicine people are just not helping. And they may seem very interested in the idea of acupuncture, but just have a deathly fear of needles. You should still talk to somebody who, is an acupuncturist and just tell them that. Said, I'm kind of interested in maybe make an appointment with you, but I have this big fear of needles, and a lot of times they'll have some alternatives for you, maybe acupressure or some other options for you.
Yeah. It is well worth it. I recommend it highly. Not in place of what your doctor is telling you. Go to your doctor. Don't say, hey, down the donut hole people told me to do this, and so I'm scrapping the plan, my health plan that my doctor and I have been using for a while. Don't do that. That's not a good idea.
Well, don't do it based on what we say or what we don't say, but it is an alternative for you to investigate.
Sure.
And, not to make any rash decisions about stopping anything else. But
we'll talk to them, because I think even mainstream doctors these days are looking at those kinds of things as good adjuncts.
Some of them. I don't know what the percentage is now. It is getting better, but if you want to make sure, or you have a better chance of getting someone who will be open to that kind of thing, then look for a DO instead of an MD.
What's a DO? Doctor
of Osteopathy. And they have all the same training and the same rights to practice as an MD, except that they're more mindful of the options of the way of dealing with some of these things in a more natural way.
Like a naturopath kind of thing.
And the other thing, that's a whole different thing. But also with the word osteopathy, that means having something to do with bones. They are also like a chiropractor. They can make adjustments that, like a chiropractor does too, with more medical, complementary things at the same time. So it's a good idea to maybe try that.
Or at least investigate it. Maybe ask around.
Physicians in any particular area, you could do a search and just, put the DO on there as an additional search term and find somebody who practices that.
Yeah. I do think, being proactive and staying alert and in control of your health profile. Well, how are you managing things? Those are important obligations that you can do. And if things have kind of gotten out of control and you've gotten sedentary because you were sick a long time or even depressed, try something small. Take a short walk, do something small to change it, because you'll be surprised how much benefit you'll take from even the smallest of those changes. And with that, we are again out of time. I can't believe how quick time goes. So anyway, we'll say goodbye. Tomorrow is Freaky Friday, and we're going to finally go and find that grotto. So we'll see you then. Bye now.